welcome to the Ladies' Date. We are glad that you're joining us, and today in my panel I have, start from my left,
Florence Angala. Pleasure to be here.
Lucy Mukulu, a pleasure to be here too.
Agnes Kinyanzui, happy to be in this forum.
Yeah, nice. And today we'll be handling a very interesting topic, and it's about Christianity and culture. And we just want to see, do we have to follow everything that culture has when it comes to the different things that influence us? Maybe we'll just hear some views before we go into the details of how culture maybe influences our walk with God, or how our walk with God should influence our cultures. So maybe you can start from Mrs. Kinyanzui, telling us, what do you think?
Christianity and our culture. Christianity has been brought to us by Jesus Christ, because the moment you receive Jesus Christ, you have been brought to a new culture of Christianity. And the culture is something that is in people, in the lives of people. That is, for example, let us take example, the culture from where I belong, the culture of Kamba, Kamba. They have several cultures. And when Christianity came, some cultures were left behind, because they were not pleasing unto the Lord. They were not making people to understand Christianity. So, for example, I give an example. Especially when a girl wanted to get married, the parents used to go to the place where they want this girl to be married. In case they have seen a good man who can marry their daughter, they would go there. First of all, before even the girl knows what is happening, and then they go there and they talk with the parents of the boy, and they say that they have seen their boy who is able to be a friend to their daughter, or to be a husband to their daughter. So the boy, according to how they have observed the boy, they have seen he has a good, he has integrity, he is a man who can take care of the wife, and he can take care of the family. So they used to go there, discuss with the parents, and then they would go back, and then the parents, during they get together, the girl will be introduced to the boy. The girl will be introduced to the boy, and then from then they will give what we call, the parents of the boy will give what we call in Kikamba, I don't know. I don't know what they call in English, but they used to go kill. Maybe they would just select 4 goats or 3 goats, and one will be killed, so that they may cement the relationship.
Oh, a libation of a kind.
Libation of a kind, yes. Once they do that, now the girl is assured that she will be married by the boy, and that boy will marry the girl. So, and even now, these days, it is not happening that way. You find, because the Christianity is there, you find this the boy and the girl, they meet somewhere, and the boy will see a good or a beautiful girl or a good presentable lady, and then he will approach her. When he approaches her, you know how men approach women or girls, you know how they approach them. Then you find they will start a relationship. They will start now knowing each other. Now this is not culture. This they have started, a boy and a girl. They have started somewhere.
But
Friendship.
I have a question. Don't you? Is it bad to connect your child to, maybe you've seen a good girl somewhere, then you just say, hey, let me link my son to that daughter or that daughter to? Is it bad, like as a parent?
These days, you know, you cannot do that because maybe the boy has his own reason why. He has his points to see whether this and do I need this girl whereby my parents are pushing me to. Do I know her? Maybe after we get married, after some time she might bring problems, and the same thing happens to the boy. Yeah. So these days, girls and the boys are free to choose whomever they want.
Oh, okay.
Yes.
Maybe we hear from Lucy. What do you think about Christianity and culture? Maybe some changes that are happening.
I am thinking when you say culture, you mean African culture, right?
Yes.
Yeah. Well, I tend to think they all are useful, and like we can't, in as much as we were introduced to Christianity, because this is something that came with the missionaries. It's not that something that was inborn or there in Africa. It's something that we've learned in history that came with the missionaries, and it's something that most of us have had to adapt to. And I would say this majorly from our parents coming all the way to us. And the cultures that are there, the African cultures, we have had some limits. In as much as we are told to like do away with majority of the culture practices, that is you see, culture is a habit that you do over and over time, such that it becomes part and parcel of you. I would say some are still very impactful in our lives, and like where I come from, let me just give an example of what she has said. Like where she comes from, where I come from, we have the Mount Kirinyaga, we have the Mount Kenya now, that belief of the Mugumo tree and all that. And I've seen several clans and elders, in fact elders, we call them Kiama, they still practice. And these things are very useful because in as much as you'll see women following the Christianity, you see some of their men are still entangled in that culture of elders and all that, and it helps.
No, may I have a question? Because when you go, let's say like that one of Mount Kenya, going to Mount Kenya, the Mugumo tree and all that.
Yeah.
You see, it was more. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
But it was more of like ancestral worship and those things.
Yes.
But Christianity brings us to the point of seeing Christ.
Yeah.
Like our salvation is from Christ and not from our ancestors and all that.
Yeah.
So I think sometimes I am convicted that there's maybe a line there. Don't you think there's a line that needs to be drawn? Because if we go back to worshiping at Mount Kenya, Mount Kirinyaga, it's like making the work that Christ has done on the cross null and void.
Well, not really, because that's like paying homage. It's like when you've lost a loved one, someone that you feel a connection to. You are sort of just saying please remember me. As in,
But you see, that is ancestral worship.
not really, not really. It's ancestral. It's someone that you remember even in the Old Testament, when these most characters, they used to pray, and they would always put that word. They would put like our ancestors. How you blessed. You see the people of Israel, how they came all those years they spent from Egypt to Israel. Yeah, you see them referring to their ancestors, to their forefathers. So it's the same case.
No,
here.
you know, in the
I tend to
Bible,
think so rather.
in the Bible, you see when even if like David will say the God of Jacob, he knew the God that Jacob was
God.
worshipping was
The true God.
the living God, the only God.
Yes.
But you see, what brings challenge in the African context is we are not referring to that God. We are referring to that dead person, that ancestor. But you see, and then which God were they worshipping? That's the question.
They also worship a God. It's
Which
a God?
God?
Only that they believe he's in a higher place. You see, that's the whole point of, they don't just go to an island or an empty space. They are facing the Mount Kenya. Why? Reason being, they believe he's at a higher point.
Which God? But the question is
And
which
even
God?
as Christians,
You know?
what do we believe? We believe that God is up there. We don't pray looking down. Or
No,
just,
it's not. You see, our God is very distinct. When we the God we worship, when we for example, when Christ came, we know the work that is done on the cross, and leave alone even that. Even when you go to the Old Testament, like let's use Abraham. Abraham was called out from his people. His people were worshiping a God,
Yes.
but that was not the living God.
Yeah.
And God called him out to come and worship the living God. And God began a new generation from Abraham. So that is why now the question that comes to our forefathers, our grandfathers, which God were they worshiping? Because look at Kambas, even the cultures and the things they used to do.
Yeah.
And you see some of these things was natriga uchawi and those things. Because nizile vitu they were doing, they're not the things that God would expect a believer. They will sacrifice. They're sacrificing to which God? You know? Who is this that they are honoring? Is it the living God? Is it truly that? And you see, God called us out of some of these sacrifices and these things that are even that, like she was saying, the shedding of blood and all that. God called us out because that blood that was shed on Calvary was enough. I don't need to kill a cow, but you see, our ancestors, they still hang on to that thing of lazima tuende kwa a particular mountain. Even in Ukambani, there are hills that they go and they offer those sacrifices. But that's where now Christianity and our traditions, it's a very thin line that we can get lost. Of course, there are things in our culture we can take up that and emphasize good habits, emphasize us living good lives. But before I take over and preach, let's hear from Florence, then we'll come back to...
Okay, Christianity and culture, you can't say that culture is all bad.
Yes, that's true.
But Christianity is infused into culture because a church is defined by, you cannot ignore culture completely. Like when you go to Ukambani, lazima infuse kiasi fulani with the culture there, and the church is sensitive to the culture, but depending on what, not everything goes. When you go to Western Kenya, the church will be like 30% infused to that culture. But there are good practices and bad practices. Yes, like the dowry system for Africans, in the world over, or let's say in the African continent. Dowry is not bad. The respect of elders, going back to the elders. You see, like before you set a wedding, you are told, are you through with the elders? So some cultures are good and some it's a no-no. Like for example, the Akamba, the Kilumi dance, going to the shrines to make sacrifices. Of course, that is a no for me as a Christian. So some cultures are good and they are infused into Christianity and they work very well, and some have to be...
We need to... I have a...
Now,
she talks about like traditional marriage. I have a question. When someone has done a traditional marriage, like you've gone home, you've paid dowry, you've mnaombewa, they pray for you and all that. Do you still have to come back to church and do wedding? That can be called a wedding.
Because you see, I'm very sure even before your wedding, you were asked by the pastor, are you through with the elders at home? So you see Christian and culture work together. And then again, in the government system, now you've done the traditional part of it, and now you are coming because Christianity is for monogamy. Yeah, and even the law recognizes that.
What if I sign the certificate? You see, the certificate the pastor can come, I sign the certificate and I'm prayed for, and I come out of there
From
married.
the attorneys.
Yes, yes. They can bring the certificate like on that day. We just decide this is the wedding.
I think
That's not be a wedding.
It would be, but you see, I think at the end of the day,
What kind of wedding?
people are more about the celebration. You want to share this event, not just you, and you want to engulf a larger parcel of people. I would say a bigger crowd, your family and friends. It's more about the ceremony. It's not just about the marriage itself, because when it comes to marriage, you've already established that between you and your spouse, you've already decided you're going to be one. You've done that traditionally, you've done that maybe legally by the attorneys, but the wedding in itself, it's a celebration. What would you say?
Yeah, it's a celebration, and at the same time, you know there are many types of marriages. Because if you, according to the Kenyan Constitution, because if you say you go to the traditional way, you've taken that type of a marriage. So it's an open kind of marriage. So again, it contradicts with Christianity. Because if you're married the cultural way, your husband is...
I will come back and ask.
You know, these days there is a norm of people are celebrating, and this thing called weddings is becoming too expensive for the young people, and I don't know whether they want to show off, whether they want. It is too expensive. Even some of men are shying off because they don't have enough to put up their wedding, to celebrate about their wedding. But it is not a must that you need to put, an expensive ceremony. You can just go a few people, and then the pastor in the church, the pastor will sign a certificate and they give you. But in the culture now, when we come to the other side, we call it come we stay. That come we stay, you are not assured whether you live together for a long time, until death do you part. Okay, you are not assured. But the moment you go to the church and they be blessed, the wedding is blessed by God, and the pastor prays, the one who is officiating the wedding prays for you, then you are assured, because you have given certificate, you are assured that this man we can live together. Wedding as marriage has so many pitfalls, and you have to live with this man until what Bible says, until death do you part. So you are comfortable there. But then again, the things which come in marriages, you find you have some differences. Then you sit down and reconcile, instead of saying, okay, I have to leave this marriage because of A, B, C, D. Now the culture one, okay, a man can decide, okay, I've not I've not done anything, so why should I continue to stay with this woman? He will say, okay, I can marry another woman, and then you will go and marry and then leave the other one.
Yes.
For example, I'm sorry to quote our, I don't know whether it is to quote somebody's
Maybe
name.
you can just say someone.
Someone. I was listening some caption yesterday, and then this man has announced that he gave the first wife freedom to go and do politics. But then you find, then you find he married a very young girl. Then the woman, they were discussing with the first wife. The first wife was asking for forgiveness because of maybe she did something wrong, that she made her husband to have another wife. But then before they got married, they met at a political arena. When they met there, then they married. It was Kamwe State, and they continued. They bore children, and now, because the man, I don't know what he thought. The man thought, I think I have to have another wife. Of course, he married another wife. So this first wife was abandoned. She was complaining. She was abandoned, but the man was paying school fees for his children. Anything else, no. And the woman was not working. So she had to go through difficulties feeding the children and doing all those things. The man said, only school fees I will be doing it. So you see, so if they were married in the church, or they married the reverend officiated their wedding, maybe he would even after marrying the young one, he would continue to support the other one, the first one, because I don't see the reason why a man should get married to another wife and he is not supporting the first one. It is very unfair, very unfair.
Yeah.
And then again, when we say, okay, the cultures, Mukamba had a very funny cultures when we go back, because I understand when I asked my grandfather and my grandmother how she got married, then she told me she was before they used to go to what we call a dance ile inapigwa ile drum, and they used to dance, and then a boy will see a very wonderful girl dancing well. He will approach that one and he will go with that one. So that is how they got married. That is how they got married. And then later they would take this dowry. Yes.
Okay, what I had in mind was, you see, I like how you said people have made weddings so extravagant and appear so expensive. But this is one of the things that we were discussing as colleagues, and we thought the day we take dowry, the day msichana we go pay dowry, people come, your friends come, and everyone comes. Why can't this ceremony for people who don't have money? One, you're doing it before your parents, you're doing it before God. And if you maybe you even in the certificate is involved, you are not neglecting the government part, and you say that will be like your wedding day, and that day you sign a certificate and you're prayed for, and your marriage is committed to God before people. And we thought for people who don't have money, that will be considered because they've done it the right way and they're doing it before God. They're not honoring traditional is doing anything wrong against the Lord. It's just that maybe they do not have money for a bigger function, and they can be presented to church as a couple married, and the certificate was signed, So I think maybe it's just to tell people, don't stay with someone because of you're saying I don't have money for a wedding. Even on Sunday, you can be joined. Yeah.
But then,
add on
Anne, I
that-
think it's a challenge back to you and to the church. Somebody needs to start somewhere. I think it's a very good, it's a brilliant idea because the pastor can come in, because in those ceremonies, the traditional ceremonies, the pastor, your colleagues, your Christian friends, everybody is always there. So I think it would work. If somebody started, it would.
Yeah.
It will work
And
well.
they will have done the
Gain
right thing the
momentum
right
with
way.
time.
Yes.
Yeah.
Because I know a
beg to
couple.
differ.
Yes.
I know a couple who even called the pastor to officiate their wedding. They called just a few people from both sides. Very few people. They even could not reach 40. And the pastor outside there. And they had it was just a wonderful
Simple wedding.
simple wedding because pastor was there. He had a marriage certificate which he would sign, and they had a best man and a best lady to stand for them, and pastor came and he joined them. He gave them the certificate. And the group which was there celebrated. In the church, the pastor announced, I did this and this and this. And the people were so jubilant. They were so happy about that.
Lucy wants to differ.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yes.
I feel like if those processes are rushed in
Yeah.
such a manner,
Yeah.
we might even have worse problems than we have today. There's a reason why there's usually the process is systematic. You see, from from engagement to traditional wedding to the church wedding, it takes a time. As in, you don't just today go and tell Pastor Pinto, we want us to officiate. You see, at the end of the day, as you Florence mentioned, he'll first ask you, are you done with the traditional?
Yeah.
Are you done with counseling?
Yes.
You see, with those processes, I think that's why the church requests for such in order for you to get that time. You see, at the end of the day, you're not just trying to rush and
get
have
married.
that name of I'm a husband, I'm a wife, and such things.
We're not skipping the processes.
Yeah,
We are just saying,
combining them.
Yeah.
like you do your counseling, go home, be introduced, do the introduction, and because you see, by the time dowry payment, let me use like my example, was happening, I had done counseling. So the dowry was happening and my wedding was next, so they were like following each other. So I'm saying, instead, if you don't have money for the big wedding and everyone has come for your dowry, just do the wedding.
Okay.
Be prayed for, because even that day the sermon that was preached, we left there and we even prayed for like a couple and the sermon that was preached was for marriage, that when we enter marriage, this is how we are to live. And then we came to Nairobi, stayed like a few weeks, went to church, the sermon was preached again about marriage, and we were prayed for. So it was good, because now friends, maybe because it was those who did not go for the dowry came for the wedding. But as we were like, okay, if someone doesn't have the money,
What do you do?
let them get married. Because I've seen even smaller weddings. Even what you're saying is big. They did counseling, everything, and they were joined in an office because they didn't have money for party and food and so.
Because, and you see, like our Western counterparts, who brought about Christianity, theirs is short and easy. Even their burials. So as Africans, and you know, we've mixed Western life, Christianity,
And we
education,
separated.
culture. We put them so together. We want to do everything, and it's really complicated. Even our burials. I wish we could make things simpler, so that everybody is able to afford, or let there be options at least. If one wants to take the long way of the traditional, the pre-wedding, the wedding, let it be so. But then the shorter version of the way Anne was saying, I think it's a good idea. Even our burials,
I think those options are always there. It's
Yeah.
only that what happens, we usually let society decide for us.
Yeah.
Like I'm assuming myself,
Yeah.
if I were to decide on doing a wedding,
Yeah.
and I opted because I'm an introvert, and I would actually prefer something so
very
small,
simple
very
way.
small. But I can tell you the face my mom would give me.
But Corona has made people have very small weddings.
That's not something they would appreciate.
Yeah.
And not just them, even the church. Because my mom has friends, my sisters
They
have
would
friends.
want you to be
Yes, they'll
taken
be
to
like,
church.
she has been coming to our weddings, her mother has been coming, contributing. So you want to have the same. You know, they want to feel the same. So society also sort of is a factor.
And
It's
everyone
not
wants
just,
to wear a white gown.
thank you.
So our African culture, ikifika hapo kuna disadvantage.
Yes.
They don't
You know, we are
Inakuwa out of your
the whole
control.
village wants
Oh,
to
yes.
get into your
Get it.
business.
Yes.
Your business is everybody's business in
Yeah.
Africa. Oh, now I get. No, that is real.
To add on that, I can say, I think pastors should tell the congregation that there is no need of having a very expensive wedding. He has to explain in such a way that people will understand. Wedding is not that you call everybody to come. No, because things are too. I mean, life is too hard these days because you find you want an expensive gown, especially a lady, an expensive white gown, and you do not have that money. Maybe your parents do not have that amount of money of buying you a gown, wedding gown. So you pastor should tell people, okay, you just make this thing simple. But what is more important? The most important thing is do you love the lady? Yes. Do you love this man? Yes. The most important is love, and how they will stay in marriage. That is the most important thing. Otherwise, hii celebration ya kuna mangari sijui limousine like my stepdaughter whose mother passed on, and then we were to take care of her. She came. The limousine was hired to come and pick her from my house. A limousine. Can you imagine? A limousine. That wedding was very expensive. From yani ngari inatoka hapa mpaka huko. You know how limousine is. So it is not that is not important. Anyway, if you can afford, it is okay.
Okay.
It is okay.
Okay.
But those who cannot afford, they should not shy out. They should continue to enter into marriage, provided they love one another. And then the Lord will bless their wedding.
Maybe somebody needs to drive the idea of marriage is just a celebration.
Yes.
The real marriage is
Yes.
the real now the one you start
even
living
if
from
people
there.
need to gali and box, they will dance and
Yeah.
but we have made. But don't you think, as she was saying, society has really dictated. If you
Yeah, and
if your marriage,
expectations.
if your wedding has pilau and good
And all
things,
those things.
and then they go and eat ugali and boga in someone else's, they
By
will
the way-
make that other person feel like where man.
But you know, it will depend with a couple.
Okay.
It will depend with a couple because we cannot afford this celebration. We just call few people to come and cut hii keki ya wembe.
By the way, let me just chip in. Money is not always the factor. There are people who are very well off, and they have also opted for small ceremonies. I remember there was an article, I'll name. There's a guy, he was a competitor of BAT. Is it Mastermind? It's usually after Mlolongo, Gateway Mall.
Mastermind.
Yes, that guy is very well off. He's Meru. I saw the article on Nation. He he was such an introvert, someone who just kept to himself and his family.
I heard it.
When he passed on, he had already done a will that he wanted only the wife. Sorry, the wife passed on earlier.
Before him.
Yeah, before him. So he just wanted his kids only, and the sister, one of the sisters. Yes, and even when he was
For the burial.
for the burial, there were less than 10 people for that burial. And you can imagine he's a tycoon, wale tunaitaga mabillionaires. So he was someone who was good, because in the nearby community he used to like have these how do they do it in education. He would support kids, he used to support the needy, but he had boundaries. For him, it was him and his family, period. Even the children of his sister had to stay out of the gate as he was being buried. Can you imagine? That's an extreme. But people, I mean, you do
It's
what
not always
pleases
about
you.
money.
I heard that story.
It's there, and actually it also astonished me, as in that's one of the characters. I've never seen that, but it also tells you, if you set your goals today, I want something small, this is me, and this is how we shall follow it. As long as we are doing according to God's will, then that should be it.
But then again, if we go back to the Bible, see, people were getting married. We remember like Isaac. Isaac had to call, Isaac or Abraham?
Abraham had to call
his servant. His servant to go, in case he died, go and get his wife to Laban, from Laban's family. And maybe there was a little celebration. They celebrated, but then they were celebrating because the girl will leave them and they go where? To Abraham's house or Isaac's house. So I think this celebration should not bother people. Yeah, it should not bother people. They should just put a simple Wendy.
Yes, and wow, that was a very interesting and hot discussion. Maybe just for a few minutes to do with culture. What do you think about naming of children? Should I name my children? Call them my mom because culture dictates so. Can I call my child any name that I feel mtoto wangu nataka kuwe na this type of name?
But nowadays it's kind of free. It's not really
open.
It's open. Things are really changing fast. Yeah, and why not? Why not call your mom?
Okay.
Do you know where like Tom or those names came from?
Okay.
After all, we should also be proud of our culture and where we come from. Yeah.
You know,
because the Mzungus don't call their children Duku.
but
Well, you
example,
can call them a Kamba name, but
Yeah.
not necessarily maybe your mom.
Yeah.
Maybe it's something in the Bible. You like, let me say Muo, you know, peace.
Yeah, peace,
you
yeah.
like a particular name, but you know, sometimes there's that emphasis. You maybe parent ask, hey, ujamuita mimi.
And you want to honor them.
You know, in the culture that we found, people wanted to name their children, to give the children the names of their ancestors.
Yeah.
And then it came sometimes back. It came to be now the names that we are giving our children, the names of our ancestors. We have to scrutinize what that person, how was he behaving? How was he behaving?
Maybe they were a witch doctor.
Yeah, if he was not behaving well, or if he was a witchy person, then you're not going to give my child that name.
That name, yeah.
Because the spirit might follow. They were
might become
thinking about the spirit.
True.
Is the spirit may come and dwell in my child, and they will behave the way he was behaving, which was not right. But then, because we are now Christians, we can name our children, even the people who are in the Bible. Yeah.
But you don't have to leave your culture because you are Christian. Not everything about culture is bad, because
But
cultures are many.
But naming the children. Naming
like
the
there are
children.
Kamba names that are in the Bible.
There
Like,
are.
I'm not saying you call them. You don't have to call them Joseph. Let me say there are people who've picked like an attribute, like I will use this example because we all know him, like our pastor. One of the sons is called Mutinda, and he picked it from the word of the Bible that says abide, staying. That, so when you're naming your child, know the way Jesus said, abide in me, and my word abides in you. So Mutinda is a common Kamba name.
Yeah.
Yes.
But this is, you give this child a name with the, this is what I mean. It's not away from Kamba, but it has
the meaning.
Because there's some Kamba names. Hey, you hear and you're like, why?
Why? Like you name a child Biti, which is Aina, which is Aina, or which is what?
Hi.
All these names, funny names.
Oh my God. Okay, can I also chip in? I will also just give an example of myself, like how I've named my kids. I put in both the Christianity and the culture. Okay, in our Kikuyu culture, we name kids after our parents.
Parents,
But once, if you're a single person, or rather single woman, you name from your side. You don't go for sing names in other people's families. So what I did, the Christianity names, like my son, I called him Azaria. It's in the Bible. Most people actually usually don't know that. It's there was in Isaiah there is King Uzziah, and he also had a name as Azaria. Also you'll find Obadiah. Was it Obadiah? He was also called he was also called Azaria. So okay, for me what came out so strongly was King Uzziah, because I was naming my son after my dad, my late dad. And the second name I gave him as exactly as my dad, but the first one, instead of calling him Geoffrey, I gave him Uzziah, because once we had gone for a memorial and the preacher really brought out the King Uzziah. And he was just an example of who my dad was. So I was like, in fact, I was pregnant at that time. And I was like, this is what I'm going to name my son. God gave me a son, and this is what I'll name him. And it became so. For my daughter, I got the name from South Africa. It's actually a South African name, and it means joy. It was the moment, the feeling that I was feeling at that time, and I was like, I want to be joyful all the time. When I look at her, I want to be joyful. Of course, that's not usually the case, but well.
Right. I think for today we've not touched everything on culture. Maybe at another time we'll have we'll have a moment of going into even concerning burial and the other things that culture come with, even food and such things. But today, I think for today, we've really touched on marriage and on a bit on naming, and we pray that we've learned something. And I usually say, your Christianity, your walk with God comes before your culture. So let your Christianity dictate what you take in and what you don't. So thank you so much, and God bless you.